So, my wife sitting back there would say I'm one of the luckiest folks she knows. An example of this would be a few years back, my sister was getting married in Honduras. And my mom, an ode to moms, mom sends out a text message to all the kids about 2 months ahead of time. Make sure you have your passport. And I'm like, Mom, we're grown-ass kids. I know where my passport is. I can see it right here. We're fine, And so we get about 2 weeks forward, or 2 weeks before the wedding, and my brother's like, hey, man, I've got my passport. You got all your stuff packed? I'm like, I've got it covered. I'm looking at my passport right here. So then it's 2 days before the trip, and I go and grab the passport and open it up, and it's my wife's passport. My sister's getting married in Honduras in 2 days. Well, 2 days before I leave, so in 4 days. So I have to text my mom first, right? So and then I just put it up on Facebook and go, I have no idea how the heck I'm going to get to my sister's wedding, and I'm now the meek. I'm like the most embarrassed person in the world. And out of nowhere comes all of this. Any of y'all that helped me, thank you. Some of you are out there. Like all of a sudden, people just start organizing. When you throw it on Facebook, it's amazing. People have a cause, and they're like, I am for this guy. So so suddenly I get this message from a friend of mine in Atlanta, JC, who says, I've got a buddy pass. I can get you to Atlanta tonight so you can get in line for a passport. And I was like, there's a line? Okay. So I get on the plane that night. I get down to Atlanta, and I'm like getting on the plane. I'm like, I have no place to stay. So I'm like, Facebook friends, I'm looking for a place to stay. And so I land, and my friend Becca's like, we got you. We're going to pick you up. So Becca picks me up, and she's like, what do you need? And I was like, I guess I need pictures for a passport. So we drive over to this Kinko's, and we're running in, and they're like, we're closed. And she's like, this guy needs to have a picture for his passport. And the guy goes, okay, we'll give you 5 more minutes. I go in and I get my picture. So then I go to Becca's house that night. We stay. The next morning we get up, and I get there in line, and they're like, well, you needed to file this with your congressperson, right? So I have to call. All of this starts to ravel together. I finally get that night to the airport, and I'm not there in time. Because we're really pushing. I get there, I'm not there in time. The ticket I can't get the ticket. And I go, I've got a ticket to Honduras. I got the passport just today. I've got to go. And the guy goes, hold on a second. He's like, I'll get you on the flight for tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, the next morning I get on there. I get all the way to Honduras and, eat crow and all that. That's the kind of luck I have. And I don't know where that comes from. That's a variety of friends, a variety of different things. So it's funny when people say they think I'm lucky. I don't feel like I'm incredibly lucky. As a kid, Irish folks, they're like always lucky. Dutch folks always feel like they're unlucky, but they're hoping on Providence. So that was my life. I always felt like I was unlucky and always hustling to try to get more and more luck and always feeling like I was out of luck. So I was looking for those stoplights when I was late, and I'm praying that Providence would change the stoplights and they'd turn green so I could get there in time. And I didn't realize how many times I got green lights. And I always felt like when I got the one red light, I was unlucky. That's kind of how life felt. About 35, my wife and I moved into a neighborhood in Atlanta, southwest Atlanta, a mixed income community. And we lived there for a couple years with some folks, and then we decided to buy our first home. It was a fixer-upper. And we found this spot. It was on the corner of a busy street and another street. There's no driveway, abandoned houses on every corner. It was a perfect setup. And so we get this house. I had just started a job at a church, and my wife had just started a business with 3 other friends, a scrapbooking store, and put a loan in for that. And we move into our house, and it's about a year into my first job when I get a text, or not a text, I guess this would have been an email, saying, Troy, this was kind of some of the leadership of the church. We've decided that this isn't a really good fit. And so there I am without a job. And I remember talking to Kelly about it, and I was like, we can figure something out. And I could hear her throwing shoes in the back. Like, we can't figure it out. And then so it starts kind of unraveling, and we're like, we got to figure something out. And then she goes, we realize the store doesn't work, the store that she's working on, and she steps back from that and gets back into another job. We're kind of settling in, and we go, you know what, up against the odds, why don't we start a church? So we're there in the middle of a house. We don't have a job. I don't have a job. She starts a new job. We begin to find this place and pull together a bunch of people. We get $140,000 in grants to pull some of it together. we begin to have these different folks from different walks of life that want to do things in this community. Folks that have that are training to do like international global relief work. Folks that are training to do international business. We have folks that are social workers. We have people from different walks of life. Folks in Section 8 homes, and all of us kind of making this life together. It begins to kind of make sense. More people start coming to be part of this house church that we were part of. We begin to do some mentoring with one of the high schools, and then somebody says, would you come to our church to talk about this, or would you come to this conference? And I start traveling, and then we get this book deal, and all of this is starting to make sense, and pretty exciting moment, and I feel pretty lucky. And then I get a call, or it's actually an email, and it's the folks that we got the grant from, and they said, we're not really sure that Neighbors Abbey is a good fit for our organization. And so suddenly the grant stops right there in the middle. I call my friend Peter. Peter's the guy that was working on his international MBA. And I was like, how are we going to pull this thing together? And he goes, well, before you say that, I need to tell you, we're about to move to Accra, Ghana to do some work, Jessica and I. So Peter's out of the picture. About 2 weeks later, another couple that was part of this moves up to Ithaca, New York, and everything starts to unravel. We had our porch there faced Dill Avenue, a pretty busy street, and a kid one day stole Escalade, an SUV, right? And he's coming our way. I wasn't there. My wife and our daughter was like 6 at the time. We're sitting on the porch, and he's coming around the corner, and he's coming faster and faster, and he can't make the turn. And he starts to get up on the sidewalk, and then he kind of gets it turned enough, and he slams one of our cars and totals it into our other car. And it was like, okay, what are we supposed to do now? We'll buy a van. So we bought a van, and we get the van in the front there, and I'm like, okay, so the church piece isn't going to work. Why don't we start a nonprofit? So we pulled a bunch of our friends together, and we've got this idea, the mentoring program that I talked about. And so all of us are working together on this nonprofit. And suddenly, some of those folks that had helped start it start moving away. And you know, I'd mentioned on either side of our house there were 2 houses that were abandoned, right? Most of these houses were about 100 years old. And one of them had a 100-year-old water oak in front of it. And turns out that water oaks only live about 100 years. So sure enough, one night we're at home, and the 100-year-old water oak falls over on our new van. So I'm not feeling like the luckiest guy in the world at this point, right? And so there we are going, what the hell is happening? Like, so we decide we're just going to play it safe. We move to the Midwest. I get a job in the first-string suburbs at an average place. Some good folks. I'm there. We're getting kind of settled in. I'm still really homesick for Atlanta. About 9 months in, I get a email from my boss. We sit down, and he goes, I'm not really sure this is going to be the right fit for you, Troy. And we're like, you have got to be kidding me. So I call my wife. This time she doesn't throw any shoes, but I'm like, we've got to meet. And we met over at a golf course. I don't even golf, but we just met at a golf course to walk around on this golf course and talk. And we're walking along. And I remember us just walking and just kind of screaming at the universe, like, are you kidding me? And just the weight of it. And it felt like the falling car and all of those things all at once, right? The falling tree and the car and everything was all piled here. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to, I don't know anymore. I can't make this luck happen. I don't feel lucky. And so Kelly said, we came here to get healed. We're not leaving till we're healed. And there was something about that moment of going, luck has nothing to do with this. Gerrymandering luck has nothing to do with this. Honestly, my decisions have nothing to do with this. That was 2.5 years ago. And I'd say I'm back in a place that feels fairly lucky, but I've got to tell you, luck isn't something that you can make happen, as far as I can tell. Bad luck isn't something you can stop from happening, as far as I can tell. What you can do is be present in the place that you're with the people you love. You can let it settle in a little bit. You can keep showing up. I think the healing comes, but I have no idea how.